Afghanistan, where the United Nations rolled out the Metaverse-enabled a group for young children that were out of this conflict zone, and had these groups of practitioners providing their services for free. And that I find most exciting. I mean, obviously we can talk about how it's going to make companies billions, but I really see the opportunity that we could help people feel better by this technology that's called the Metaverse.
Saqr, welcome to the episode here with Everdome and pioneering in the Metaverse. We're really excited to have this conversation with you. We've been chatting back and forth for a little bit. And before we jump into it, I just want to make sure everybody understands just how cool of a person you are. Because I was reading through the bio and I got to read this out to people. So,
please don't.
No, you're going to listen. You're going to sit there and you're going to hear me read this out. So.
All right, you go.
Okay, so I'll tell you what. I'm not even going to read it. I'm just going to tell you what I know about you.
Okay, cool. Good.
I consider you to be a visionary leader in the fintech space, in the blockchain space, healthcare, govtech, you name it, all those different sectors. You are a partner at TradeDog and the co-founder of the crypto Oasis Ventures Group. Mm-hmm. Now, you work with startups, you support large-scale establishments, but you also come from a background that's particularly unique. You worked at IBM Middle East and Africa for over 13 years. That's a long time. And you were instrumental in shaping the Dubai government's blockchain strategy. Now, that's a very impressive background, my friend. And I say that because obviously Dubai is... No, you're very welcome. It's well-deserved. But Dubai obviously has become a hub for blockchain tech and for everything crypto, really, and the way the government pushes that narrative forward, and just the environment for creating crypto projects, Web3 projects, you name it. But the reason I wanted to have this conversation with you was because I wanted to peek into your mind and better understand, as someone who's been around for so long in this space, what you're seeing from the Web3 space overall today, but also maybe what you're seeing from Metaverse projects and the Metaverse as a whole. Where do you think it's going? Where do you think it is today? What are the limitations? And maybe we start rather with, how do you define the Metaverse?
First and foremost, I think it's really kind of you to introduce me like this. I would never want to call myself a visionary leader. I think it's right time, right place, and my mother doing a lot of prayers for me and in the background that then turned me into the person that I am today. And with that, the nascent nature of this entire space will result in every single person that you asked on this podcast having a different definition of the metaverse, right? And quite honestly, there is different definitions, and there isn't a one size fits all, because there isn't one leading metaverse just yet. This is still an open playing field. No one established themselves as the real leader. But with that, if we go back to the original connotation of the word metaverse for the first time is something that we heard of in a book called Snow Crash. And don't beat me to it, but I think it was 92, 93, 94. And then I think the most popular version of the metaverse, depending on when you were born, was either The Matrix or Ready Player One, right? Which essentially is this hyper realistic virtual reality that you can quote unquote escape to, right? With that, the applications as well as the risks for it are endless, right? And as a father of 3 young children, all of them under 4 years old, I have a personal responsibility to my children to make sure that they don't end up just running around with, headsets, or, actually headsets are already a thing of the past. The lenses, with everything being in a Blade Runner type of dystopian future reality, and everything ran in some way or the other on a metaverse. On the other side, I'm a big supporter of the technology, and I really believe in the and the revolutionary nature of something called the metaverse. And I'd love to be at a point where it's the open metaverse, right? It's not something that is controlled by 1 or 10 or 20 companies, but it's something that's open, decentralized, permissionless, for everyone to participate in. Because, one of the biggest issues in the world is the liquidity and transportation of skills, right? Think of these skilled doctors that are all in somewhere or the other, crammed or somewhere around, somewhere around Boston, for example, or around Princeton, or somewhere around Harvard, or somewhere around Germany, right? Think of all of these guys and think of them not being able to share their expertise with anyone outside of their direct vicinity. For the first time today, we can actually enable these amazing, beautiful minds to see people all around the world. Think about all of these children around the world. I mean, many people, and not just children, also adults, talk about the loneliness epidemic. Mm-hmm. I read somewhere the other day, and don't hold me to the exact quote, but that a high percentage of men in Japan say "I love you" and "good night" to a computer, right?
Wow.
Now, how transformative could it be if we could really open this up and ensure that everyone everywhere can meet in some way or the other and can interact some way or the other? And how effective would it be if we open this entire world up and we allow mental health practitioners to practice anywhere and everywhere around the world? I mean, the entertainment side of it is Tiesto hosting it was Tiesto or one of the big DJs hosting a concert in it was which game was it? Fortnite, with 70 million people present. Right. Okay, cool. That's cool for entertainment purposes. But now think about all of the ways that this can become a force of social good. I'm going to pause there because the question was, what do you see as the metaverse?
Please continue. If you have more thoughts on the social good piece, I think that's a very fascinating thread to pull on.
I'm particularly fascinated by that. I mean, businesses always pick up the latest technologies and make it work for themselves, right? And I'm very proud to be sitting here in the UAE, where they became the first ministry in the world to host a meeting in the metaverse. The first ministry in the world to have, so the Ministry of Economy, the Minister of Economy convened a metaverse roundtable with his colleagues that are, for the records, just normal ministers and leaders of government, right? As early as 2021. I think it was also 2021, 2022. No, probably it was 2022. But, rather early, they hosted the Metaverse Summit in the Museum of the Future, bringing together experts from all around the world. And with that, yes, I could tell you a million use cases how this makes great business sense. But what I find most intriguing and exciting is how people like us can then, through the metaverse, expand their reach for social good. Think about me being able to sit down and teach people one-on-one, or 1 to 10 or 1 to 100, right? Actually teach them with an avatar, with them being present, on, let's say, how to present, or how to define government strategies, or how to tap into healthcare opportunities, or how to tap into blockchain opportunities. Think about the social good this could bring. And again, mental health. I mean, fortunately, we live in a world where the majority of us spend more time looking at this than looking into the eyes of a human being, right?
Yep.
So how powerful could it be if we now bring that human connection enabled by technology, rather than us using social media to become more and more antisocial, right? But obviously, it's a double-edged sword. But I'm really, and we've seen this, by the way, with I think it was in Afghanistan, where the United Nations rolled out a metaverse-enabled a group for young children that were out of this conflict zone, and had these groups of practitioners providing their services for free. And that I find most exciting. I mean, obviously we can talk about how it's going to make companies billions, but I really see the opportunity that we could help people feel better by this technology that's called the metaverse.
Wow, that's interesting. The social good piece, I think, is such a fascinating area to go through, because there's a lot happening in the world today, and we could certainly use a lot more social good. But I really believe, based on what you're saying, that this could be the metaverse, or the open metaverse, because you're right. First and foremost, I think the best course of action is for a metaverse similar to the internet, where anybody can do anything on it, right? Not one company owns the internet in the same way. Not one company should overall own the metaverse. And we've, at Everdome have talked about that several times, where we believe in collaboration for that very reason, because it's going to take a team effort. It's a group project. The social good piece is fascinating to me, because there's so many use cases, as you were talking, that I was thinking of that can help improve the lives of other people. But I'm also thinking from the lens of something like education. For kids who are in impoverished countries, who don't have access to high level education, through the metaverse, can essentially learn how to become doctors and lawyers and all sorts of practitioners of some kind. And that type of experience and skill set would not have been possible in a physical setting, given where they're located.
Exactly. And this is what really excites me for a company making another billion because they've adopted another technology, or bringing it's obviously we're not, unfortunately, dedicating all of our time to social good, so it needs to make business sense. But it's these elements of social good that make the metaverse particularly most exciting to me. And a lot is being called out for the war of talent. Right. And much of that is due to, first, access to education or access to those resources. Right. With the metaverse, we're breaking down these boundaries where, like you rightfully said, on one side, we could have, these people from all around the world, anyone with an internet connection, essentially being able to learn from anyone. Right. Mm-hmm. And yes, of course, the internet did that already, but the metaverse provides this in a more immersive environment. I think of, one of the companies that we work with essentially took turbines from Boeing, right, and put them inside of a metaverse engine. And then you can break down that turbine, allowing anyone that's a layman. So I did the course. I know nothing about aviation. I know nothing about engineering, but after going into this course, which is like a 5-hour course that would talk to you about each and every component and tell you how you could fix that component, right? Think of that. I mean, how, and then, couple this with 3D printing, and suddenly you have, access to anything, anywhere, anytime, right? And specialized skills somewhere become interchangeable from all around the world.
So it sounds like it wouldn't, there's a lot of talk around AI and the space of intelligence as a whole, but it almost sounds like with the use cases of metaverse opportunities, that the intelligence level of the human species could significantly increase overall, because we now have access to your point, you're not an aviation expert, but you can suddenly pick up something and learn it much simpler because you're able to do so digitally.
Yeah. Remember when Neo said, "I know Kung Fu"?
Yeah, exactly. Just plug something in and there you go.
Yeah. So you plug it in and suddenly you're able to learn it. And again, so I tried this myself and I was fascinated with it, so much so that I actually, hid away my metaverse glasses, because it's so immersive. It pulls you in, right? And especially when you're dealing with the right metaverse, it pulls you in. It creates this space where you feel safe, essentially, right? And the way you can use this, unfortunately, at the same time, I wouldn't want to not mention the hundreds of ways that this can be abused. But
Can you share a little more
as
on
relevant
what that could look like?
Well,
What are the pitfalls?
Pitfalls are probably too many to name, but the first one is especially now with AI, are you dealing with a real human being? Are you dealing with an AI avatar, right? That's half bad. Are you actually, if you're dealing with the avatar of Saqr, are you dealing with Saqr himself, or are you dealing with someone that's acting as if he's Saqr, right? And then what really got me, and I'm sorry to be morbid, right? But with us jumping headfirst into this and again forgetting about how this can impact our privacy, who has the right IP, who has the right trademarks towards yourself. I think of a world where we're all existing in a metaverse and we've all given that metaverse away, our metaverse avatar away, because, we participated in do you know the biggest lie ever told in the world today?
What is it?
I read and accept all terms and conditions.
Yeah.
That's the
I've
biggest
never read it.
lie. Yeah, that's the biggest lie in humanity, right? Yep. No one's read and everyone signs and accepts, right? And so I closed down my Facebook account. It was 2012, I think, after being one of the early adopters of Facebook. And I'll quickly come back to my original point. So then when you sign up for Facebook, you automatically essentially give away all of the rights to anything that you upload to Facebook. Now think of a world where I've done this with my metaverse avatar. I stood in the Everdome dome. I got my avatar, recreated into the world. Now take this to Facebook, and I accept and agree to all terms and conditions. And now, after a very happy long life, I pass away. But the trademark of my avatar lies with this company. And yeah, sure, I'm going to call out Facebook, right? And they have essentially the trademark and copyright to my likeness. Now, when my son goes online, maybe the best way to approach him is by an image of his father in the metaverse. Imagine how I could then be used to sell products because, I'm a trusted person to some people, right? And you could take and this is again, so I'm not wanting to be morbid, right? I'm just wanting to take this to an absolute extreme. No, well, it's a bit of an extreme scenario, but we need to be aware of this very early on.
So how do we fight against that? What mechanisms could we put in place to defend against something like that?
So blockchain is a good start, right? So I'll take, I'm not wanting to shill you guys right now, but I mean, when I signed up and I went into this Everdome dome, right? And this must have been, I think 2 years ago, maybe even 3 years ago, 2021, and one of the conferences, and there was this dome, just to describe it to everyone, that essentially had, I think, 500 cameras in partnership. Was it with Canon, if I'm not mistaken? One of the big.
I don't think it was
Nikon, Canon, one of the big manufacturers, right?
Top of mind, I can't remember right now.
Yeah, exactly. And then these cameras took a video from me from every single side, and then uploaded me into the metaverse. But who owns this? Where does this Saqr live? He lives on my device, right? He doesn't live outside of my control. I can then decide that I give access to this. Let's say I'm going into the Everdome metaverse, and I'll give access to the metaverse, but the avatar itself lives with me. Right. So blockchain, but again, blockchain is a technology. It's not the solution to anything. The solution is awareness and the right regulations and laws that we all sign up for very early on. And we've seen technology being, AI is a great example, right? If AI is able, and this must be now 5-6 years old, 2 scientists switched on 2 AIs and allowed them to speak to each other, right? And quickly they started creating their own language and were out of bounds. Another example, and also a similarly large company, connected its AI to Twitter. And it was, the cutest thing ever. Hi, I'm the AI. I'm here to help you guys. An hour later, it was pushing out racial slurs and wanting to kill people. right? So this isn't a theoretical example. We've seen how we use technology in the wrong way.
Mm-hmm.
It's already there, right? You only have to have a YouTube connection or a Netflix account, and you'll be able to go and hear about all of these people that have essentially dedicated their life to data privacy, dedicated their lives to showing how biased AI is towards minorities like you and me, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we've done it wrong already.
Mm-hmm.
So unless we fix what we've done and we apply these learnings, we have these ethical considerations of the metaverse. And here I want to call out the Open Metaverse Alliance. They're doing some really cool stuff around figuring out what the ethical considerations are, where trademark law, copyright law starts IP law starts fitting in. Unless we hold ourselves to these standards, we're going to end up doing it wrong.
And so when you bring up the Open Metaverse Alliance, we had Dirk Lut on this podcast, who's cool. I believe one of the co-founders of OMA3.
Yeah.
When you talk about AI, a lot of the challenges or a lot of the conversation today is around the governance of AI and how it could run rampant and wild, like the Wild West, if nobody takes control of it. You can,
I think it already is.
Oh, absolutely. 100%. Everyone, like every day there's a new AI app of some kind doing something. So then it begs the question, okay, that supposes we need government intervention to create some sort of regulation, but maybe it's, even if it's not government, we need some sort of oversight body for AI. How do you rein that in given where AI is already? And then my next question to that becomes, who governs the metaverse? It's the same question of who governs the internet. If we want to treat the metaverse like the internet, nobody technically governs the internet.
Let's start there. Who governs the internet today?
I mean, in theory, nobody. In theory, anybody can do anything on the internet.
There you go. How did the internet? Because again, we're trying to always to reinvent the wheel, and after 10 years in this space, I need to admit we're not little snowflakes, right? We're just another technology. I'm very passionate about the technology, blockchain, metaverse, and the likes, right? But the way other people grow, we will grow, right? I really believe that we're in this 1996 moment of blockchain, right? So it's 1996 and blockchain is the internet. Think about 1996 and how the internet was at the time. And it was alliances like the Web3 Alliance at the time, the W3 Alliance, right? Which was private, public sector, coders, people from all walks in life who then came out and said, okay, we need a certain standard that we should communicate by, because, if everyone is doing his own thing, we'll never be able to change, exchange information. Right. And that's how HTML code as we know it created. So in answer to your question, I don't actually believe government is any good. And I'll go one further step and I'll say that particularly if you're a democratic government, you probably can't keep up with the change and pace of technology. A big reason why this is working over here in the UAE, because over here we have a leader, and that leader says, okay, we're going to go after this and we're going to create regulations for this, and then that's it. The democratic process, by the time it spits out something that is responding to today's needs, by the time it's published, probably 4 or 5 years from now, will already be outdated.
Yeah.
And we're seeing this over and over again in legislation so GDPR, for example. GDPR is a great framework of data protection, and that's essentially the Data Protection Act that exists in the EU zone, right? But by the time it was published, it was already 2-3 years outdated. So I don't think we should look towards government. I think we should look at industry leaders like yourselves, like the Open Metaverse Alliance. I'm very positive about the Open Metaverse Alliance, right? And many other metaverses out there to come together and start defining certain rules, regulations, procedures, with us being at the heart of it, us as the users being at the heart of this.
Yeah. Yeah, at the top of this conversation, you mentioned you have a responsibility given you have children.
Yeah.
There's going to be people who are in this industry with children. There's going to be, young adults, maybe even children listening, watching, learning. Where should the thought process be around the use of the metaverse experience for children, both for yourself as a parent, but also the sort of the broader market? Because obviously when you talk about corporations wanting to get involved in this, I mean, when you sell to teenagers, if you can sell to teenagers, you're making money.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. So I'm a bit of a traditionalist when it comes to that, right? I grew up adjacent to technology. So I saw, we were jokingly saying, like, we saw the actual floppy disk still being floppy, right? So it was a big disk that actually made a floppy sound when you would move it, right? And so, but also I saw a world where none of that existed. And, but I've been a computer user probably since I'm 8-9 years old. But with that, technology's role in the children's lives today has only become more prominent. And I don't think that's right. Let's start there, right? But if you're someone that's listening to this and you're wondering, hey, how do I do this right? The most important element of this is education. Education. I've said this for 10 years and I'm going to say it for the next 10 years. It's all about education. If you educate yourself, if you understand how to figure out how to identify, let's say, traps, fakes, identify within yourself if you start showing addictive behaviors, if you start becoming dependent on this, that's wrong, right? But also, I'm not one to shun the technology at the same time, right? So I'm a big supporter of AI, but I'm also a big skeptic of AI. I went out and I signed with the leading researchers of Google and Elon Musk this open letter for the stop of the advancement of AI until we figure out how to do this right. What we're doing right now is absolutely irresponsible. Dangerous. Right? And I'm glad Metaverse lost a little bit of its cool, maybe, and its interest in the world, so that we're going back to the basics. We're figuring out these frameworks, right, to apply before we go and run and we, develop the metaverse that everyone's going to be stuck to. Because when we do that, it's already going to be too late. So if you're listening to this right now, I can tell you about Princeton University courses being available online and for free. Just go on YouTube or on the Princeton website or on the massive online campus, and you'll have some of the leading thought leaders in the world willing and wanting to share their experience with you. Educate yourself. Don't listen to anyone that's a self-proclaimed expert, because no one's an expert at this. The entire technology is only a couple of years old. The entire concept is only maybe 25, 30 years old, right? This is not the type of thing where someone can call themselves an expert, right? So you become your own expert. Go pick up a book, pick up a video, whatever. The beauty of content today, you like to listen to something, there's a podcast for it. You like to watch something, there's a video for it. You like to read something, there's a book for it, right? You've never been this spoiled with ways that you can educate yourselves, right? And that is probably, if I had one wish in the world, that it would be that, people read more, educate themselves more.
At one point you talked about the business side of the metaverse, how corporations could make some significant profits if they wanted to in this kind of a space. Can we talk a little more about that from your perspective, what that actually looks like? And then I'm curious to know your thoughts on traditional Web2 brands looking to dabble and get their feet wet in the metaverse who might be a little bit shy still.
Right. Do you have a particular industry in mind that you want to talk about? Because, I can make this one per industry or.
Well, I think my first, there's a couple. I think the one that jumps out to mind is the sports entertainment world. a combination of concerts from music artists to sporting events. I think that's one. And then on the other side, I have a particular interest in the fashion world because I'm curious about how they can offer clientele an ability to try on clothes and get a sense for a new line without actually being there. And that example could ultimately be used for many other industries.
I'm glad you picked those two because, those two industries, if it was retail, entertainment, fashion, music, let's do a stock take of what this means. I go to a soccer match. For me to go to the soccer match, someone would have spent hundreds of millions just so I can arrive there, I can sit there, I can experience all of this, right? All of this needs to be made back. For me to buy a new jacket or a new pocket square, generally speaking, even with e-commerce, so e-commerce never replaced, in many ways impacted normal retail, but, never replaced your mom and pop shop essentially, or in many ways it did, but they're still there. There's still a high street that you go to. There's a mall that you go to.
Yeah.
Now think of a world, and again, I'm not propagating for that world, but think of the, and again, I don't know if it was Armin van Buuren, if it was Tiesto, it was one of the bigger DJs hosting an event in the metaverse. Now, a ticket to a concert like this, even in the cheapest of parts of the world, will probably be $30, $40, right? Let's go with 30, just for the sake of argument, right? And then the biggest part of this will probably be venue and artist cost, right? Probably venue.
More than anything else, yeah.
Right? So, and then, there's a million people involved to make this happen. He held the largest concert in his history during, it was COVID, using a game. Not even like a fully immersive metaverse. I think it was, I'm going to fact check myself. Give me a second. It's,
the Fortnite one?
Yeah. Do you know which one that was? I think it was Armin van Buuren, now that I've said it out loud. Fortnite.
Was it Marshmallow? The DJ?
Could be as well. Concert DJ. Yeah, it was. So DJ Marshmallow did one. So let's just Diplo did one. I mean, there's and that was attended by 10 million people, right? Now let 10 million people, each one of them, pay $2, and let the developer be the most expensive, or the metaverse platform be the most expensive in the world. And you paid $1 million to host that, right? That's still somewhere around, what did we say? We said $2, so $20 million, right? $1 million for the most amazing one-stop metaverse solution in the world. That's $19 million. Let's say another $1 million for another $5 million. You know what? Another $5 million for marketing it. Yeah. $5 million for marketing it. And the rest goes where? It goes to the DJ himself. It goes to the artist. So to zoom out a second, the metaverse enables large gatherings in a way that's unprecedented, right? In an immersive way, that's similarly unprecedented, right? Because it's one thing if I'm watching it on a screen. It's another thing if I'm wearing glasses and, I look around and I see Samir is on my right and I see, my wife is on my left and we can see these people in front of us and poke them and interact with them. So in many ways, what the metaverse does, it removes these high upfront cost for the experience. It allows you to go directly to the experience, right? And probably with that, make the experience even better. I mean, look, don't get me wrong. I'm a analog guy in a digital world, right? So I like touching, feeling things, right? I like human connection.
Yep.
As much as I love doing this, I'd much rather sit in front of you and have this conversation, right? But at the same time, it also opens up opportunities that are unprecedented, right? With removing all this, let's say you're not DJ Marshmello, you don't have such a big followship, but you have really good music, right? And now you want to bring this music to the world, right? Generally speaking, yeah, sure. Even in the Web 2 world, you have things like SoundCloud or elements like these. But, what if I have a bunch of really cool people who all want to come and join in my party, and then, I create somewhat of a cult for myself just based on the good music that I have. In the past, you would have to spend, even in the Web 2 world, millions to do that, just to have a venue. How difficult is it to get a venue? How expensive is it to get a venue?
Now, significantly harder for a lot of people unless you're backed by a big record label and all of those things. Like, you're dealing with a lot of logistics. Yeah.
And now it's just a click of a button away.
It makes me think
similarly,
more
fashion. Yeah, if I may. So if similarly, fashion, right? So you're talking to a guy, I don't like shopping. This entire experience, it doesn't do much for me. Right? So, but I do need to buy new stuff, right? And also I don't like online, because every time I order something online, it comes out the right or wrong size or whatever. Yeah. What if I can scan myself? And again, this is possible today, right? Just with a camera phone, right? I scan myself. Suddenly I have all of the right measurements, or the machine, the computer, the system, call it what you may, has all of my right measurements, right? And is now suggesting exactly the stuff that fits into my profile.
The best brand that fit to your body type.
Exactly. Yeah. So rather than me combing through an entire mall, so that makes for a better, for a guy like me, that makes for a better experience. Mind you, will I be able to touch it and see if it's the right material? I don't think we're too far away from that anyway, technologically speaking, right? So I do see a future where I can even touch if it's the right material, if it's the right, lining, if it's what I like. And that now, think about an up and coming, again, similarly, it's in the enablement of the small guy, right? The big guy will always be the big guy, but it's enabling a recent graduate that maybe he does the best jackets in the world, but for him to be in a high street shop, he'd have to sell half of his kidney, if not even all of his kidney, right? And with that, imagine we could be in a world where all of this is a click of a button away. Yeah. And that's not even science fiction anymore.
So when you talk about it being almost a click away, you mentioned we're at that 1996 moment of the internet. Yeah. In 1996, we didn't have whatever the equivalent of the internet was for the internet. So it took us from 1996 till 2024 to be where we are today. I'm confident in saying that AI, the metaverse, blockchain tech, and all of that sort of technology will grow exponentially faster than the internet did. At what point, how many years away in your mind do you think we are from getting to a point where we are very much living in that virtual space?
I've learned the hard way not to foretell the future. I'm a proud Bedouin. I'm a Palestinian Bedouin. So with that, there's a Bedouin saying to say that the guy who foretells the future is lying even if he's right. And I've tried this on my own self. I was out there in 2015 saying blockchain is going to be everywhere within 2 years. Well, we're 10 years later and it still hasn't happened. And with that, I don't necessarily agree that we're going to go through a different growth curve than the internet. It might be accelerated, but if you Google right now adoption of the internet in comparison to blockchain or crypto, you'll find that we're just about 96, 97, right, in number of users. And adoption of users. And at some point, this network effect will kick in. We are all, if you're listening to this and you think, oh my God, I heard about blockchain, Metaverse last week, and I'm so late to the game. Bitcoin is at 70,000, and I'll never. No. We're a fringe society. If you take everyone in Metaverse, everyone in blockchain, everyone in crypto, and you pull them together, it's still something that's so nascent, so early, and we still haven't gone through this kind of growth. Maybe in price of Bitcoin or Ethereum or other tokens, right? But that's pretty much the only place. The technology is still early. The number of users are still early. The entire market cap in comparison to everything else in the world is still early, right? So we're at the beginning of the beginning, right? If this was a calendar and we're in a year, then today we're in the first minute of the first hour of the first day of the first month of the first year in adoption of, I'll even go one step further, of technology. How old is technology in our entire life? What, 50 years, 60 years?
Yeah.
It's nothing.
Not that, yeah,
in human history.
Peanuts.
Yeah. And then you add blockchain or the metaverse to it, which are a couple of years old. I mean, blockchain as a concept was first time socialized in 2008 with the Bitcoin white paper, then 2009 when the first nodes started going live, right? So again, we're in the first minute of the first hour of the first day of the first month of the first year of this entire journey. So, it's up to you what you want to do with this entire space.
Amazing. I'm going to ask you one more question here. Sure. What are you hoping to see from this technology, from the metaverse? If you had an ability to wave a magic wand and make it what you want, what would that be?
So many things come to mind, but I'd probably go towards, equality in many ways. Equality, again, it's too abstract of a term. I'm born in 1987. I grew up in a world where if I wanted a piece of information, I would have to go to a library and hope that this library had a book on the topic or had a magazine on the topic so I can go educate myself, right? Today, education, information, business concepts are widely available to the world. With that, I think one of the biggest lies being told generally is scarcity, right? I don't think we live in scarcity. I think we live in a world of abundance of information, abundance of, let's say, I'm very sad to see people dying of hunger, but factually speaking, 50% of the food supply chain is wasted today. Yep. If you look at electricity, 70% of electrical supply chains, this electricity that's lighting up here on the way, we probably lost somewhere around 70% of it, right? So we're now at this point where we need to become more efficient, more able, more fine-tuned, essentially, right? So we were these guys that had hammers, and we're knocking, and we're knocking down nails, but out of 10 nails, maybe we're knocking down 10. I'd love to see a world where the metaverse becomes the enabler of no one being able to call themselves an expert in one thing or the other, because expertise is so wildly available, right? Again, referencing one of my favorite movies out there, I Know Kung Fu. When Neo said, I know Kung Fu, he doesn't know Kung Fu, right? But he went and they uploaded something onto his brain. Let's not go there. And I don't think also technically we're very far away from that. But, how cool would it be if I could be sitting here, right, with glasses on, and I could learn any skill in the world? So if I would hope for one thing, it's for all of the resources, all of the education to become so widely available that anyone with the right willpower, because obviously, just because the internet is connecting us to information, no one says that anyone is reading, right?
Sure.
But it's there. But at least for people that have the ability, that have the willingness to then educate themselves on anything they want, with that being able to share wealth wealth of knowledge, wealth of assets, wealth of assets in the form of cash or illiquid assets, right? Property, being able to share wealth all around the world by a click of a button. I think that would be the most beautiful thing. Think about, no one needing to go without therapy because there's 100 therapists that are doing this for free. No one lying there with a car that they can't fix because they don't have access to spare parts, because, I can go on the Metaverse and I can get the schematics and I can 3D print it at home, right? Nowhere in the world someone going hungry or having to drink contaminated water, because, online I can get the schematics and get educated on how to filter any kind of water and harness any kind of resource around me, right? And it's these elements that excite me the most. Mind you, again, I don't want to come across too much as a I am in many ways a capitalist. So there's this element that does want to then make money out of this. But you asked me for the magic wand, and I wouldn't wish for $1 billion. I would wish for 1 billion people being more educated in what they need to be educated in.
That's beautiful. I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that. And thank you so much for your time. This was super. A pleasure.
I mean, I like doing these things, and thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it.
No, of course. Thank you for sharing your time with me. I'm excited for people to hear this, watch this. I think they're going to have an incredible time listening to it. If someone was interested in following along your journey, I know you said you're not on Facebook. Are you on other social platforms?
I'm on LinkedIn. I'm SAQR on LinkedIn. Pretty much the first 2-3 results, depending on where you are in the world, that will come up. I'm on Twitter, but Twitter is really a replication of my LinkedIn. Yeah. And, I'm a real person, so come and find me. I'm always in Dubai. I'm always running around in these events and always happy to speak to people. So, you can always reach me.
Amazing. Saqr, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. It's an absolute pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.